I thought I'd do another update in terms of where I am and the slight frustration of I'm in my training space, but I'm not doing any training. And at the moment, I'm about to go into a short break where I'm not going to get much opportunity to really do any training either. So for those that aren't aware, I got onto LEL again this year. So I'm doing LEL 2025 after doing LEL in 2017 for the first time, and then LEL again in 2021 or 2022 is the one which is delayed due to COVID. So I've had mixed experience on it. First one was horrible, it was really tough. I was really fast at the first 500 kilometres, did really well, and then ended up getting something in my lungs, coughed up blood, swallowed a load of blood, made myself upset, and kind of had quite a rough time for the next about 1000k. Finished, but I in pain, and it was tough. I enjoyed it. The next time, 2022, I didn't have those problems. It was a very, very hot year. So it was kind of a lot of scrambling for water and all the rest of it. Great camaraderie, but because I wasn't in pain, had a whale of a time, pissed everybody off because I was so happy. So this year, going back for 2025, I'm really looking forward to it. I want to start getting training again. That's the bit that I know that we are 150, 144 days or whatever it said in the app away from doing the start of LEL. But my own very nature is kind of I enjoy training, I enjoy having the structure and looking at how I'm going to start to get to that point where I'll be fit enough to do it. However, over the last 10 days, a week or so, I've had what's probably likely an influenza A strain, which has been going around the Northern Hemisphere. It is a bit of a kicker, and it meant that I spent through 2 days in bed feeling absolutely terrible. I still feel as if I got swelling and all the rest of it in my lymph nodes, which means that I haven't fully recovered, which put back this week's worth of training, which was looking at. So I was getting rather excited about starting to work on a program to get myself to where I want to be. So particularly as at the moment it's winter time. So I can start to have a look at, well, what can I do inside this space in terms of, it means it's a lot more easy to structure things, and to work on intervals and work on zone 2s, etc. However, that's all gone to pot. That happened this week. That's part of the reason. So what it means is that I did have time to actually reflect and go, well, in that case, how do I construct what my training plan is going to look like? How do I put it into an organised manner? So I start to do that. A lot of it is going to be, parts of it is going to be like the intervals that I've previously done, the 4x4s, the 5-minute efforts, all the rest of it. Increase the FTP, increase the VO2 max, so that when it gets to the point where you have to do the zone 2 for the ultra endurance stuff, you are sitting at a higher value of zone 2 compared to what it would be. Not to go to just kind of 350 watt zone 2, bloody hell. No, it's more than normalised zone 2 for a normal person. So that's what I had intended to do, and I was kind of like, I look forward to getting started on this. However, next week I'm going to be away, so it's going to put it back by another week. Grand scheme of things, it's not something to really be concerned about because we still have got a substantial amount of time before we go to LEL, and there will be other events that are on the run up to that as well, particularly things which are going to be more the 400k, 600k distances, because they're really quite good for getting into the fine tuning. A lot of the long distance stuff is not about what your instantaneous power is, it's more about what your mental attitude is. And part of it is I still have kind of like visions and dreams in my head when I close my eyes of different events I've done in the past where it's been me solo on a road somewhere at 4 o'clock in the morning with a mist coming across the road, no one around, and just kind of cruising along onto the next checkpoint. I miss that. I miss some of the rises going over the tops of hills and seeing the next view down the valley. There's so many experiences I've had over the years riding that keep me motivated and keep me. I want to experience more of it. I want to do more of it. But it'll come. It'll come. It just means that it's the part of me is the frustration of I want to do it. I want to move on. I want to be on to the trading. Part of me is also I've got to be sensible. I've got to recover. I've got to make sure that if I went back to training this week, I would have screwed myself properly. I would not have been I would have set myself back. So stopping completely was the right thing to do. My alarm clock, unfortunately, I might have pissed off Anna this morning because my alarm clock went off for the 6 a.m. turbo training, which wasn't necessary. Bollocks. Oh well. My bad, my mistake. I should have cancelled the alarm. But when I come back after this next 10 days away, it then means I can start to look at, well, I know that Monday mornings, if I'm going to be commuting down to work and back again, that gives me 2 good interval sessions with 8-hour workday separation between the 2 sessions. If the weather's crappy, it means that I'll be in here, but it means that I can do like a 5 hours out of zone 2 but zoned out. Well, legs zoned into zone 2, head can be zoned out. I could be learning something, I could be doing, listening to podcasts, listening to music, watching movies, all the rest of it. 5 hours kind of thing. Recovery on Wednesdays, then Thursdays and Friday mornings, it gives me, in the morning time, I've got 2 different options now. One option is more about the being in here doing interval sessions, because then it gets the high-low thresholds. That's what I need to be developing at this time of the year. The alternative is I can start to do more going back onto the road. I really want to be back out on the road. I've got a nice collection of bikes which are kind of sitting behind me. Everything from my old Concorde, which is now 20 something years old, which is still fun as fuck. I want to be riding. I've got my race bike, the long distance bike, which I know is comfortable. It's great. And then I've also got my winter bike, which is used for commuting, which is reliable as hell. So that they're there to be used through the winter or through all this training. And I want to be out there. The only thing is, the one thing I really struggle with is doing interval training on the road, particularly if it's the time section, like 4 minute on, 4 minute recovery, 4 minute on, 4 minute recovery. Because we've got road junctions, we've got traffic, we've got things that stop us. I'm much better at doing the point-to-point intervals. So things like if it is coming out of a certain junction, there's a turn, there's a long climb, which I know is going to be like an 8-minute effort. Do zone 4 for 8 minutes, get to the top, then recover, and then ride to the next point where I then do another, from this junction here to this point here, is another section which is 6 minutes. Do zone 4 all the way through that kind of process. That's what I need to, I'm trying to work out how to do that with accountability, I think is the phrase. In terms of how to manage that using my Garmin lap functions, it's something I haven't really done that much of, and that's something I need to work on and something to develop. That's where I'm up to as of the, whatever today's date is, I think it's about the 14th of January, and then 17th of January apparently. That's where I'm up to at the moment, and then I'm going to see if I could do a little bit of running while I'm away, because I like to get my Strava squiggles on my heat map just to see where I've been on my different travels. But then when I come back, I want to really start getting my teeth into some of the training. I will do a VO2 max test, so an FTP test in that first week back. I want to get a benchmark point of where I am, so that might be the Thursday after I return. Once I've got my FTP benchmark place, I can then start to work out how my FTP increases, particularly over the next 4-week period after doing the VO2 max. And so after doing the FTP, see what my increase is. Then I start to get a bearings. The other thing I need to break is kilometre chasing, effectively. It's very easy into Strava, ValueViewer, all the rest of it. Look at what your previous year's distance was. Are you above and below that distance? Which in a way is a bit like bullshit, because I could very easily sit in this room and then over 36 hours go for 1,000 kilometres. That would easily put me ahead of my annual mile kilometre distance or the rest of it, but it doesn't effectively benefit my training. I could end up doing 1,000 junk kilometres rather than doing 250, but very, very constructed, very specific and tailored in a way that actually increases my FTP for the long term and then later on in the training blocks and getting towards LEL, etc. So I'm going to start looking more at TSS and what's the other metric? It'll come to me at a certain point. That will help then inform where I am in terms of progress before then pivoting towards the more how do I use that for event work. First events aren't going to be for a couple of months. However, there's a couple of things that I want to do. We did, myself and Anna, when we were starting to look at the training and looking at planning. Looking at training is a bit like also managing the family calendar. There's training which I wish to do, there's training that I would love to do, but there's also the reality of we've got children who have got clubs, events, orchestras being played in, all the rest of it that has to, which takes precedent. I'm not a professional athlete, I am somebody who's doing this as my own project. So there's certain things that I would love to do, but in reality I'm not going to do. One of the things we were talking about was at some point I will do a test event in here for the November project. Still needs a sexy name. For the November project, which we're looking more at, I will sit in here and do a single day 500 to 600 kilometres as if it is going to be a November day. It'll be about 9,000 calories. How do we manage in terms of communication from here down to the house? I can test some of the things like the broadcast stuff because it'll be on Twitch again and all the rest of it. And then we can then start to work out, well, how do we logistically make sure that I'm calorifically fueled and how do I maintain the zone which I need to be in to make sure that I can not only do the 500 or 600 kilometres on that test event, but how would I theoretically get off the bike at the end of that 500 to 600 kilometres in the preparation to have a sleep and then be back on it and do the repeat it the second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, etc. Which is something which I haven't necessarily needed to do previously. Previous ones I have done is like 500 on a single hit, but then the next day just recover, don't matter. Same with 1,000, I did it in 36 hours. However, the next day I didn't touch a bike. I didn't touch a bike for a couple of days before then going back to work. And then the 1851 kilometres that I did, I was destroyed. I didn't touch a bike for another week. But what the intention to do on this one, because it's repeated 500k days, can I do a test event, work out how it's like to do 500k, go to bed, next morning, am I sufficiently recovered to jump back on a bike at 7 a.m, 6 a.m, and then hit out another 500k, which is going to be about the zoning, so that's going to be more in the zone 2 place. Zone 2 place, like I said earlier on in the video, if my zone 2 is higher, it then means that I will be better and get to that 500, 600 kilometre point quicker, easier, more comfortably. So that's what I'm going through at the moment. In terms of where I am, I think in terms of health, I feel as if I am about there. In terms of fitness, I'm probably about there. In terms of motivation, I'm probably up about here. But then in terms of frustration that I'm not training, I'm probably up there. Okay, so that's kind of where I am at the moment. I'll try and keep updated and I will try and work out how to use more advanced YouTube editing skills as I go through this process because I'm very much a noob and a learner.